let's move on to our next topic here, TJ. So we have two topics about France this week, and we didn't do this on purpose, but France just happened to have interesting things to talk about twice. So we're going to get to the chaos ensuing after the French elections, but first I wanted to talk about what's going on with Telegram. And Telegram, for anyone who doesn't know, is kind of like WhatsApp. It's a messaging app, very popular globally, somewhat popular here in the States. But France arrested the CEO of Telegram, Pavel Durov. I'm going to guess that's how you pronounce his name, which is kind of big. You don't often see massive tech CEOs getting arrested. And they arrested him with charges that include complicity in managing an online platform to enable illegal transactions, complicity in crimes such as enabling the distribution of child sexual abuse materials, drug trafficking and fraud, and a refusal to cooperate with law enforcement. Now, I wanted to talk about this today because it's really a gray area for me. I don't really know which side of this I fully fall down upon because I need more details of the case to come out. But essentially what we have here is Telegram is a messaging service that fully encrypts end to end. And we've had cases like this in the United States with like Apple being one of them where the government's trying to get into an iPhone of some, suspected criminal, and Apple didn't want to, crack into someone else's personal property and get access to their data for law enforcement. I mean, this is, on one hand, you don't want to have, giant platforms that enable the sharing of, things that I don't want to talk about on YouTube for fear of getting banned. But on the other hand, you also don't want the government to be able to force people into giving up private information like that. And it's a really hard line to straddle. And France is, in a very French fashion, just cutting off the head here and taking down the CEO, which I think is also like, are you responsible? Because it's almost like arresting the CEO of Louisville Slugger because someone used a bat to kill someone. Like, is that really the line of responsibility here? I don't have a strong stance on this. EK, I'm going to throw to you. Convince me one way or the other.
So, on one hand, it's kind of like a play stupid games, win stupid prizes thing. Because if you want to have, an app like that, encrypted end to end, not cooperate with, police at all, and that's your thing, and you want to run that publicly, that's going to invite a certain type of individual. You're going to get your traffickers. You're going to get like the drug stuff. You're going to get people talking about crimes. You're going to get all of that illegal stuff. They're going to flock to that because it's like, oh, okay, cool. This is a safe haven. If you want to run that publicly and not cooperate with police, like, you are going to have issues. If you want that, you can't have it both. You can't have the upfront public business. Oh, I have a business. I'm doing all this other stuff, and my business is capable of all this illegal shit. Or you have to end up doing something like the Silk Road, basically, where that was underground. Yeah, people knew about it, but the people who knew about it were already heading down that direction anyway. It's like a word of mouth thing. It's not public. You can't get it from the app store or something like that. You don't have to worry about the content moderation, whatever, because it's already illegal, and you're just some shady dude that's trying not to get caught. You can't blend, those two things together and have it be, the WhatsApp, which is ultimately going to be used by criminals. So you have to have some sort of moderation. You have to have something where it's like, hey man, it's some pictures being shared on your thing. We have verifiable evidence of this. We've infiltrated such and such group, and you need to help us. You can't turn that call down by the police department. I mean, it's going to have repercussions for you, especially in Europe. You could probably lawyer your way out of that in the United States, but over in Europe, they have much, harder, they have really good laws we should have over here. about what about protecting people's privacy on the internet, and what you can and cannot do and everything. So like I see what you're saying as well, John, where it's like, this is the CEO of the company that's getting, like this getting raked over the coals, getting arrested for that and everything. But like at the same time, like you got to either go all the way illegal or like cooperate with the proper authorities to make sure that like crimes are not perpetrated on your application.
EK is like, you can't be half a gangster, Pavel. You can't do it, man. You got to go all the way through. So
ain't no such thing as halfway crooks, man.
No halfway crooks, man.
30 years ago.
So when I first heard about this, I didn't realize John suggested the topic, and I'd seen thumbnails and stuff at it. I didn't know who this guy was. I saw that he was a billionaire who was arrested. Now, billionaires don't get arrested terribly often. That's kind of rare. It's one, they're super powerful. Two, it's kind of a waste of time. They're just going to buy their way out anyway. So when I see a billionaire get tossed in the slammer, my first thought is child porn. That's my first thought. Like, this guy definitely got caught with, like, because that's pretty much what it would take. And it wasn't that, but it was kind of that. And it kind of goes to what you were saying, EK, is that if I'm going to, like, let's say that you're going to create an app and your goal, like you set out, like your North Star is, I'm going to make a child trafficking app. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make a child trafficking app that, is going to be able to actually be publicly disseminated. What would it look like? Well, if it looks like the app you created, you can't be surprised when they treat you like that, right? I mean, they're not saying that's what it was for, but it would look a lot like what you made. Now, with this dude, a few things that stood out to me is he has Russian, Emirati, and French citizenship. I think he's a native Russian. And he applied for French citizenship, which is how he got arrested, because he was under French jurisdiction since he was a French national. That's how they were able to get him. And I thought that was like, oh, that's pretty. I want to know why he applied for French citizenship. Like, what was so important to him that, this Russian billionaire needed French citizenship at all? Because it came back to bite him. I thought that was pretty funny. And what you were saying, I think John mentioned it, how the French, of all places, France. When I first started doing the show with you guys, one of the first topics we covered was the French government last year, probably this time last year. They had passed a law that allowed judges to access your camera phone and your laptop phone, your phone camera and your laptop camera and devices like that. And they said, well, we will only use this in proper times, where they could force you to share that over. So France doesn't fuck around with the shit. If you're not going to cooperate with the authorities, they will force you to do so. I don't know how far this is going to go, but it must be pretty bad for them to work the PR hit that it would take and the money to go after this guy. Whether it's justified or not, I don't know. I don't know enough about the details, but they must have something on. What do you think, John?
So it's I want to kind of give the counter argument here that the reason that this guy, the CEO, is not in Russia anymore is because he had another app before Telegram. That the reason he fled Russia is because in 2014, Russia was trying to get him to give them data on Ukrainian users.
Okay.
That's clearly he shouldn't have done that. He did the right thing. He fled Russia. He didn't give Putin the data on the Ukrainian users. I go to bat for him for that. Philosophically, this ain't no different. Like it's I'm not going to give data unfettered access to the government. Now, there is a situation in which I go, hey, if the government says this guy gives me evidence that this guy probably is, sharing explicit materials with children, yeah, I would be like, yeah, no, government, please have this. Please go get that guy. But if the government's strong arming and yo, we want all of this data and you're not giving it to us and that's why we're arresting you, I kind of got to be on his side here, which is why I feel so on the fence about this issue, because it's a really, really, it's not a slippery slope, but it's the details and the nuance really matter when it comes to this, because we've already seen how this situation with this same guy can be abused. The government can abuse their power and authority over this kind of thing. And we've seen, I don't know about France. I'm sure the French government has done many, many terrible things. But like in America, we've seen the government abuse their powers of search and seizure and all of this in many cases in which they've used that power to railroad, very, resistant, whatever it might be. So like, I don't think a hard and fast line can be drawn on this case. You kind of have to be a halfway gangster, because I don't know which side's the gangster here, EK. It's a developing story, and I think, because what TJ said, it rarely happens that a billionaire is arrested, and it is a shot across the bow in what is becoming a very complicated online ecosystem between EU laws, American laws, and how this is going to play out on an international stage. This is going to be a developing story over the next decade, like not this specifically, but it's going to be part of it. And I don't know how it's going to play out. And I don't even know how I think it should play out.
Yeah, it's like there needs to be some sort of like happy medium in between all of this. Like, I think the U.S. government gives out people stuff way too willy-nilly. Like, I wouldn't mind seeing a situation where it's like, okay, we suspect this on these users, and you go to that company, like you have like a couple of law enforcement individuals go directly to the company. They set you up with a laptop that's like, all right, cool, you can look at these specific accounts, like, and their data from like this time period to this time period, and that's it, to try to prove whatever you're trying to prove. But like, just straight up giving law enforcement a key, or like having them just with ready access to get all of your stuff, like, yeah, that's not good either. I mean, it'd also be interesting to see if a few billionaires avoid France, like, while this whole thing is going on.
Look, all right, John, when you said that he was chased out of Russia for the same thing, I lost any and all possible sympathy I could have had for this fucking loser. Like, because look, man, you should have learned your lesson that time. Like, that's when you learn your lesson. Because I gotta tell you, if I'm a tech billionaire and I'm crafting an app that I know people are going to use for nefarious reasons, I can stand behind my principles and my morality, and that I have this vision of non-government interference. Fine, whatever. You know what people get. They use it to buy drugs and share explicit images. You know that's going to happen. And I got chased out of Russia for them trying to interfere with this. I tell you, my next step would not be establishing citizenship in a first world powerful European nation. That is not what I would do, okay? If I knew I was going to continue doing this, I am getting Somalian citizenship, Estonian citizenship, Nepalese citizenship, like anything, like any place where the government is weaker than I am as an individual. That's his own goddamn fault. You have billions of dollars. It doesn't matter where you actually live, but if you want a citizenship, be the citizen of a government that can't fuck with you. So no, this guy gets whatever deserves whatever he has coming to him, because like for his own stupidity. He's like, of France of all places, like a place that has a history of cracking down on the aristocrats and shit. What billionaires are not smart people. They're not smart. We've gone over this many times, but this guy should have seen this coming. No sympathy whatsoever.
All right, guys, thank you so much for making it to the end of this video. If you didn't know how we do this, we cut the same outro for every single episode. So you either just had a great time laughing your ass off, or you are desperately depressed like we are now, since we're doing it after the Israel episode. But either way, if you want more content like this, very much encourage you to like and subscribe. And if you liked what our good friend EK here had to say, EK, how about you tell people where they can find you?
Okay, you can find me on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok at What's Good English. I talk about some stuff there. Been on a bit of a hiatus from burnout, but I might not be burned out anymore. There might be some more videos in the works. We'll see.
That's where we look forward to it, EK. Thanks for joining us, everybody. The Left Wing, sponsored by the Israeli government, Los Pollos Hermanos, and the Umbrella Corporation, bringing you the best entertainment possible. Thanks a lot. We'll catch you guys next time.